What's up, Indiana? Welcome to Indy Sports Nation right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. The Indy Ignite have started the season 2-0. What is going on with the Indiana Hoosiers? A good week for our Pacers, and we're going to talk the big game Monday, Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Thanks for joining. Saddle up. Indy Sports Nation, let's go. Good afternoon, and welcome to Indy Sports Nation, everybody. I'm your host, Big Mike, coming in live as I do each and every week. This week just happens to be on location, if you will. The full-time job has to be on the road, man. What can I say, right? But man, we got lots to talk about yet again this week. As I mentioned, our ladies are killing it already. Indy Ignite ladies, if you will. Great start to the year for them. We'll touch on that. Touch on the Colts GM presser from last week. Talk a little bit about that. Break that down a bit. Get into some college hoops. And a lot going on there, both good and bad. And then we're going to wrap it up with a special guest today. We're going to break down we'll have some Pacers Cavs talk from this past week, which are two really interesting games. And then preview the big game for Monday, Notre Dame versus Ohio State. So hope you can stick around. Appreciate you joining me. Cannot say that enough times. But before we get into all of it, as you know, we get to give love to our great sponsors, Planet Jerky, Vital Apparel, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, because we are not here without them. So let's take care of that, get these bills paid, and we'll dive into some Colts and Indy Ignite on the other side. Thanks again for joining me here, Indy Sports Nation, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Sports Radio fans, be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Thank you again so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join me here. Hope your week has been amazing. It's been a great week here. I cannot complain. If you're watching live, thank you so much, as always. Cannot stress that enough. Feel free to comment. Hit me up in the old comment section. Keep it sports, keep it PG, people. That's all I ask. If you're able to catch me on the replay, I cannot say how grateful I am for that as well. If you give me an old follow at Indy Sports _IESR, or you can follow the old personal account at the Chill Mike. Always love to hear your feedback. All right, so let's start with the Colts. As we know, their season's done, right? So this will probably be the last. I won't say the last episode because there's going to be news that comes out with the Colts, right? I mean, it's the NFL. NFL's king. So there's something going on every month. That's obviously done on purpose. It's actually pretty brilliant when you think about it, but neither here nor there. I just wanted to thought I'd give you a few thoughts on the Chris Ballard press conference. As we talked about it last week, that was supposed to have been a Wednesday press conference, so we would have been able to cover that on Thursday, but unfortunately, Colts GM Chris Ballard was a little under the weather, so he had this on Friday instead. So for those of you who watched it, I'm sure you have your thoughts. Again, feel free to share them in the comment section. Love to hear the feedback. I will say this about the press conference. He knows how to talk. He's a good talker. And he kind of says the same type of thing just about every year, or it seems like every year now, right? Just sitting here like, man, this is on me. It's on my shoulders. I need to do this. I need to do that. And you know what? That's great. I think we like to hear that when people in his position take real accountability for it, right? But here's the kicker. He hasn't shown that he's going to do anything about it yet. We all watched the press conference. We're like, okay, great. I mean, there are a few things I noticed I do want to get into a little deeper here in a sec. But at the same time, no one's going to really believe you, Chris, until action's taken. I mean, you owned the fact that running it back was a mistake. And it was, obviously. And even last year, when they had the chance to win at home, they had to win and they're in, win a division, the whole bit, and blew it. And we knew then they were still far away from being a really competitive team in the AFC. And trending up, run it back, and you owned it. You really created no competition within the position, so there was complacency this year. DeForest Buckner was interviewed last week as well, and he said the same thing. Just came right out and said it. And I love him for it. One of the handful of guys that probably did improve was Alec Pierce. Drafting A.D. Mitchell, kind of pushed him to that next level, which was that was good to see. I'm excited for him for next year. But a couple other things I noticed too, and I again love to get your feedback. Shane Steichen had his press conference the Monday prior, right? And, same type of thing. Media's asking him all those typical coaching questions, and he doubled down on the fact that the Colts are close. He said it before, week prior. It feels like they're close, and just a few things here and there, and they're close. They're close. Even Jim Irsay, you saw the little speech he gave in the locker room after the Jacksonville game. A few things this way, could have went this way. We could be in the playoffs. Or as myself and Zach stated on the Blue Stable, from the Blue Stable on the show last week, yeah, or you could have been like 3 or 4 wins. So at least in this case, although I'm not really sure if it's good or bad, Chris Ballard comes out and says, we're not close. 8-9 is not close. And he's right. 8-9 is not close. I'm sorry, it's not. And you look at who, you had what ended up being an impressive win by the end of the year. You beat Pittsburgh early. I mean, you're looking at the other teams you beat, and yeah, okay. No one really stands out, do they? They did make the move. We touched on it last week. Defensive coordinator Gus Bradley was not renewed. His contract expired at the end of the year, so he was technically not fired. But even in the presser, Chris acknowledged for a second year in a row, mind you, that he didn't do enough to help Gus Bradley. I'm sorry. I said this last week. I've said this for a few weeks now. Am I waving a Gus Bradley flag around here? No, of course not. But I don't know he had a lot to work with either. He's got a few pieces there on the defensive side of the ball. But you look at that defensive roster, who scares you? All right, you got to account for DeForest Buckner. Fair, yeah, give you that one. Kenny Moore, okay, he's not bad. Good nickel guy, cool. Zaire can tackle sometimes. Yeah, fair enough. He did lead tackles, but he also missed a bunch. Tackling was terrible this year. They were the worst in the league. Worst in the league. Sacks went backwards. I'm just saying, I know his scheme, and that's fair. You can criticize the Gus scheme. That's fine. But I'm also can be critical of the personnel too. Again, run it back. So Chris acknowledged that. That's great. It's great. But until he does something about it, we'll see. We'll see. But the other note I think I wanted to talk about real quick, because we could do an entire show on this press conference, and we're not going to do that. But is the comments I should say about Anthony Richardson, and you can see where Chris kind of leans with that. Chris kind of wants him to, in a perfect world, he'd sit a while. Well, you could also argue, Chris, you put us in this not perfect world too, so a little bit to do with that. But at the same time, several years ago, you were dealt a tough hand, but you had plenty of time to work it out, and you haven't, and put yourself in a position to draft him. And in today's league, you're drafting guys that high, you're putting them on the field, even if he only played 13 games in college. So, but he was point blank asked, is he the guy? Is AR the guy? And Chris is like, we can't put a stamp on it yet. We can't. And he's right. They can't. So it does appear, and it's been the discussion here in the Indy market. They're going to bring in a quarterback to supposedly, and we'll see, to compete for the starting job, add some competition. Now, on a positive note, AR is going to have an off season, hopefully, where he's healthy. He's not just rehabbing. So hopefully you take this off season to work on some mechanics, which he needs. Obviously, it goes without saying. To work on to get that completion percentage above 50%, that'd be a good place to start. That competition will do him some good. I do believe that. So we'll see what they do. So those are a couple of things that stood out to me. I guess it was very much a typical Chris Ballard type of deal. He also noted that Shane Steichen will be hiring the new defensive coordinator with Chris's input. Talk today was Dennis Allen from the Saints was interviewed today. I've not heard any confirmation if that did take place or not. That was slated to happen today. So obviously going forward, we'll keep you updated on any kind of personnel moves. As of right now, the rest of the defensive staff of the Colts are still there. Obviously, we know how this works. When a new coordinator comes in, the deck gets shuffled. We'll see what happens. I'll be interested to see what kind of DC they hire. Is it the same type of DC that Chris Ballard kind of likes, where it's that whole keep everything in front of you? Or if they switched up a bit and go with a guy who likes to bring some pressure? Based off what you heard in the presser, it sounds like they're going to go with a guy that's going to bring some, hopefully bring some pressure, because you can't let quarterbacks in the NFL sit back there for 5 minutes. They'll eventually find somebody who's open, or they'll just run it for 30 yards. I mean, it's just, you can't do it. No. All right, boy, check a few comments here. My boy Ralph does our Yinzer report here on IU Sports Radio. A good evening, and let's go Notre Dame. I like it. Yeah, like I said, we'll get in that Notre Dame Ohio State matchup near the end of the show. Obviously, I got some things to say about that. So anyway, as for the Colts, like I kind of mentioned, we're gonna probably put them on the back burner for a little bit for obvious reasons. I mean, the season's over. We'll keep you updated on, and I'll give my thoughts on any kind of moves that take place in the offseason. But obviously, it's over, and we got some other sports here in this awesome sports market to discuss. So with that said, we'll move off the Colts, and I'm going to hit our professional volleyball team, the Indy Ignite, who are playing at the Fishers Event Center on the north side of Indianapolis. And I would tell people who are in market to get there. It's a very cool venue, for one. If you've not seen the videos already, especially from opening night last Saturday night, great crowd, a lot of energy, and all your local celebrities, if you will, all your local sports people are all there and kind of raving about it afterwards. Great venue, sold out. We sold out again last night as well. But Indy night with a slow start on Saturday, dropped the first set, but then come back, win the next 3 over Orlando, and get a straight set victory last night over Grand Rapids. I mean, you can't really have a better start to your inaugural season, right? Like, start off 2-0, pack the house. Can't be mad about it. And as a result, already pulling up this quick little stat here. This team is actually, I think they're rated in the preseason rankings 4th, I think, out of the 8. So kind of middle of the pack, but they've got a lot of talent from a lot of great schools. Remember Monet, for example, already got the first award for Player of the Week. And I love what I saw from Hilly the other night, too, of the 54 assists, I think, the team had. She had 46. So I can't wait. They're getting ready to go on a 3-game road trip here. They play Columbus tomorrow night, and then off to I think San Diego and Vegas, I believe, after that, before they come back home. So a 3-game swing here. But last night was we were graced by the presence of Caitlin Clark at the game, which obviously made all of its rounds on social media. And I think you've all heard what she's been going through lately. So obviously glad that she's safe, and that the guy behind the madness is behind bars now. So really good to hear that. But definitely want to give you an update on this team. This just short segments I've watched of them so far. A lot of energy, a lot of fun to watch. So I plan on hitting the game here sooner than later. And I know our boy Taryn, who does Set Point on the network, as we'll have more coverage of it as well. Gets a little more in depth there. So, but speaking of the ladies, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, it's the ladies that are keeping Indiana rocking and rolling right now. I mean, when it comes to the winning, which we're just dying, it seems like we've been dying forever to have, right? You look at the Ignite with their start, the Fever with the way they finished the season out, and got a playoff appearance out of it, even though they were eliminated early. Get the Notre Dame women's hoops team just still with another impressive win this past week. IU women are improved. The Butler women have won a couple straight. So it's raise your glasses to the ladies right here, because they are absolutely crushing it as of late, no doubt about it. And last note regarding the, since I mentioned Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever have given a what they call a core offer to Kelsey Mitchell. It's essentially basically it's almost like a franchise tag. It's not, but it's kind of similar. It's about a $250,000 deal, which just sounds nuts when you hear all these other big numbers from all the other sports, right? But the Fever made that very, very clear. They want to keep her around to run with Caitlin, and I think that's going to probably be the case. I do feel like they're going to keep her around here, but once we confirm that, we'll let you know. But it is looking really, really good at this point for her to be back, and that's a key piece for this Fever team, I believe, to hopefully make a run with obviously new coach, new front office, the whole bit. So exciting times there. So on that note, let's get let's get a quick break in here because I want to get into some college hoops on the other side. And there's some real issues going on in Bloomington, Indiana right now that I want to get into. So we'll handle that on the other side. So thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Big Mike here, Indy Sports Nation, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time to join me as always. Real quick, shame on me. I forgot to plug this earlier, but new sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Get rawnutrition.com and use the promo code IESR for 10% off. These guys got the best out there, man. So go give them, go check them out. And like I said, use that promo code, stock up, IESR for 10% off. Appreciate that immensely. And I don't know what y'all were doing last night, but the Butler Bulldog men finally won a Big East game. I literally looked down at the phone, had to look at my phone like 3 different times. Like, did this really take place? Did Butler finally win a game? I mean, the women have been doing all right. They've won 2 straight actually over Providence and Georgetown, so they're kind of holding their own. Kudos to them. But 82-77 last night over Seton Hall. And here's the thing I've been talking about all season, right? they need people to step up, and it can't just be Brooks and Telfort. And that's what's happening here. But last night, Brooks gets 19, Telfort with 10, McCaffrey 9, King 11, and Andre Screen off the bench with 16. It's amazing what happens when you get everyone else around those two to actually step up and do their thing. And Butler can actually win some games when that happens. Amazing how that works. Because really, all Telfort's been seeing all seasons double teams. Everybody comes in and plays Butler and knows, all right, just stop that guy. And Brooks to a degree. And then, oh, wait, we beat Butler. Yay. That's a pretty simple recipe. Because no one else has been stepping up. So good to see them step up to get that conference win. They're just an amazing 8-10 to start. So they still got a lot of work to do, but I had to give them a little bit of love for finally getting off the schneid there and getting that win. Good for Butler. Much needed win, no doubt about it. Before I get into said crazy rant here, because you know me, everybody's watched the show long enough. I'm a guy who leans Purdue, and they seem to maybe have turned a little bit of a corner here. And listen, I know it sounds weird when I say that, right? Like, how do you mean they've turned a corner? They've been 2-time defending Big Ten champs and national championship, blah, blah, blah. Well, we all know they've lost a few games this year that they typically don't lose. Their non-conference has always been really, really good. But man, oh man, did they just not come out on this past Sunday and absolutely smack Nebraska in the mouth. 104-68 for the Boilers. CJ Cox had a game of the year for him so far at 23 points. It was 9 of 11 shooting as well. It was just one of those games. And look, Nebraska is only a 3-loss team at that point. Now, I understand no one sees Nebraska as a perennial powerhouse in the hoops, right? But mind you, they only lost like one home game last year. So, but anyway, so Braden Smith, another 14 assist performance. Kaufman with 15. Lawyer with 19. He was 7 of 12, 5 of 6 from 3. Just things worked well. Well, then, after a lot of Purdue fans were making fun of IU from Tuesday night, Purdue goes out to Washington and probably plays one of the worst halves of Purdue basketball I may have ever seen. Only had 20 points at half, or actually 22. I'm sorry, they got a bucket late. They were 0% from 3. No, it's not an exaggeration. They literally did not make a 3-pointer in the first half. Couldn't make free throws. They still ended up shooting 23% and only made 3 the rest of the game. But as good teams do, when you have a horrible first half like that, you find a way to make adjustments. So as it turns out, you've got 4 starters in double figures, and Caleb First, for the first time I think maybe all season, made an appearance, putting 15 and getting 6 boards, which was kind of a catalyst. I mean, Braden didn't have the assist night, but he made up for it on the points. So big turnaround, ended up winning 69-58 after taking a 30-22 deficit in the half against not a great Washington team. So it looked a little scary there for a minute, but hey, again, that's what good teams do. They have a tough half. They go in the half, they figure it out, they make their adjustments, they come out and they kind of dominate the second half, which is basically what they did. So with that puts Purdue technically second in the Big Ten, just a half game behind unbeaten Michigan State, conference unbeaten, I should say. So they've got a big game tomorrow. That's going to be some must-watch TV, I think, at Oregon. And Oregon ranked 13th in the country. They've been struggling a little bit as of late, but they still got some dudes on that team. So that's going to be a tough road match for Purdue without a doubt. However, I think maybe the bigger story here in the state of Indiana is the state of Indiana basketball. Now, anybody who's obviously from the state of Indiana But I think anybody who's not from the state of Indiana, right, especially in this generation of mine and older generations, that is Indiana basketball is like, it's kind of been the staple. It was always kind of the brand, if you will, right? I mean, some would say, okay, look, you have the ABA Pacers. Yeah, cool, fair. Not going to argue that. But then once the Pacers went into the NBA, they kind of just went downhill a little bit, had a few okay seasons here and there, but consistently we're not, you know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily competing for NBA championships all the time, right? Meanwhile, you got the Indiana Hoosiers, 70s and 80s, still the last unbeaten team in NCAA, men's basketball, right? Kentucky came close, but it's still Indiana basketball, and that's the Bob Knight years, the banners, all of it. That was the brand. That's where it was a blue blood, man. That's just where you wanted to. You're growing up in Indiana. It was like, that's where I want to go play basketball. If I want to be a basketball player, man, that's where I want to go. And now fast forward, here we are in 2025. This program has done pretty much jack squat and what's coming up on, at least in the national championship. Their last national championship victory was 1987. A lot of people who follow IU basketball right now are not alive. Okay. This team hasn't done anything relevant in 20 years. I could go 25 years where they made their one run to the championship game against Maryland, which was a magical run. There's no doubt about it. That was after Bob Knight had been shown the door. Mike Davis came in, kind of ran with the players. There was a little bit of an extra, little extra juice, I guess they were showing. A little more swag, a little extra effort, gritty, everything you'd want in an IU basketball team, and made a great run. Davis is out. We're bringing he who shall not be named in Houston. You all know who I'm talking about. That and then destroys the program, essentially, with the sanctions. Bring in Tom Crean. He has to rebuild the thing. Does a decent job. Wins Big Ten, gets a Sweet 16. Out the door he goes. It's been a mess ever since. And now you're at a spot where here you are. It looks like maybe you've got all this. You got NIL money. You've got these guys coming in. On paper, this team looks like they could win the Big Ten. And it looks like it's a few weeks ago. It's like, hey, maybe they're finding their chemistry. Maybe they're kind of figuring this out. Then they go to Iowa. And Iowa's a tough place to play. I understand this. But you lose by 25 to Iowa. There's absolutely no reason in the world you should be losing the 25 points to Iowa, period. With that much talent on that roster, there's absolutely zero reason for this. But okay, hey, bad games happen. You know what? Sometimes you can't explain it. And the Big Ten is kind of a little bit all over the place this year. Fine. Figure it out. Whatever. You go home, you got Illinois coming in. Illinois, as we know, is a good team, another favorite to win the Big Ten. You get absolutely destroyed on your home court. The second worst loss in the history of Assembly Hall. Students are chanting "Fire Woodson, Fire Woodson," and they all leave in the second half. Or at halftime, rather. The students are gone. There's videos of it everywhere. The students are bailing. I have never, and I know people sit there and look at me as like, well, being hard on them again, Mike. They can turn this around. I suppose they could. But are you telling me with this IU team that you've seen this week, you really have any confidence they're going to turn this around? It starts tonight. They have Ohio State. In Columbus, Ohio State doesn't scare you, but predictors are leaning towards Ohio State to win tonight. To me, if Ohio State beats them tonight, I think that you could probably put a fork in it. There's rumor going around. There's Fire Woodson posts and whatever, and rumor went around. I think it was either Rice or Renew liked it and then unliked it. Something's going on in Indiana. I don't know what the deal is there, but I have never. I feel embarrassed for IU fans right now, and I have to think they're embarrassed because literally right now all they have is like, look at banners. Meanwhile, your rival a few hours up the road is consistently competing. Big Ten championships, competing for Sweet 16 appearances. Meanwhile, Indiana basketball is just trying to compete to make a tournament. You got IU players sitting there doing, TikTok videos of their uniforms, cool. I mean, whatever. They can do what they want. I mean, I don't care if you make a TikTok video or whatever, but maybe if you are doing that, maybe you would take your role a little bit more seriously, because I'm looking at the effort of this team on the court right now, and it's awful. And your head coach goes to the press conference and basically looks exasperated, as if he has no idea what's going on almost. And again, meanwhile, go up the street, your rival at Purdue, Matt Painter's just like, cool as the other side of the pillow. It's like a flip-flop right now, right? I mean, maybe IU is becoming a football school. I don't know. I never thought I would ever see what happened on Tuesday night against Illinois. It's something I never thought I would ever see. And right now, I'm a guy who, as I said on the show a gazillion times, I want IU to be good. It's better for everything. It's better for NCAA basketball when Indiana is playing at a high level, at least competing for Big Ten championships, competing to make a run in the tournament. They're not even sniffing that right now. It's embarrassing. And I think, quite frankly, the fans should be embarrassed. Teams should definitely be embarrassed. Coaching staff should be embarrassed. I think Indiana Board of Trustees, because we all know what's going on there, right? I mean, that's the whole Quinn Buckner thing. You wanted Woodson there, and you got Woodson. You wanted an Indiana guy, and I get it. That was the thing, right? Indiana basketball wanted that Indiana guy in there to really bring the program back to the promised land, so to speak. How's that working out? You cap him, okay. Meanwhile, you got another Indiana guy Michigan just came in and took him last year. Well, Dusty May, and look, navigated the NIL pretty well. Michigan's a top 20 team. So to me, there's a culture thing going on here. I hope it gets straightened out at some point. I really do. But to me, right now, it looks like they just need to hit a reset button. Again, we will see. But this is a state of Indiana basketball that I've never, ever thought I would really see outside of the sanctions. I mean, that was just crazy. But at least then Tom Crean's teams were battling. They were showing effort there. It wasn't winning many games initially, but, man, they were at least giving it all they had. With this Indiana basketball team, I'm not seeing it, and it's really sad. So on that note, end of rant. We're going to take our last break, and then I got to bring in my special guest, Jen B., who hosts the show of the land and covers the Cleveland and Columbus markets. We get to have some good chat about Pacers, Cavs, and probably some friendly banter over Notre Dame, Ohio State too. So hang tight. We get the last round of breaks in. We'll take that up on the other side. Indy Sports Nation right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you once again for joining. So without further ado, let's bring her in. It's Jen B from the Show of the Land right here on IE Sports Radio. Jen, how the heck are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. It's Friday.
Preach. Preach. It's been a week.
Yes.
It's been a week, babe. It's Friday. We're that much closer to, I normally wouldn't say this, but we're that much closer to Monday.
Yes.
Normally
yes.
it's terrible to say, but
right. But it's game day.
It'll be kind of fun to say.
Yes.
Well, before we dive into that, I was on your show this past week, and we were talking with the Cavs Pacers. I can't talk today. Two-gamer, and
yes.
Boy, that didn't really work out how either one of us thought it would. I don't think. What are your thoughts?
It was the opposite of what I thought would happen.
Yeah.
I kind of expected a split, but I thought it would go the other way. I figured each team would win at home, but no.
That was kind of my thought initially, and then what a good buddy of mine brought to my attention. He's like, the Tuesday night game's on TNT, so nationally televised. So that means Mitchell will probably go off for about 50, which he did actually have a pretty good game, but that was neither here nor there. But I think the biggest surprise for me, and it's just from a Pacers perspective, was in that first game, Tyrese Halliburton only played 19 minutes.
Yes.
And then he left with the injury, and obviously he didn't play at all on Tuesday. What did you think? I mean, look, Cleveland's been great all year, and I'm sure there's probably a few fans freaking out saying, "We lost 2 this week. Oh no, we're in trouble."
Yeah.
You're not. You're fine. But what was it that especially on Sunday, that you thought maybe might have flustered the Cavs a little bit?
Well, I think part of it is I have heard that there's a bug going through the locker room. Ty Jerome has been out. He just returned yesterday. And the main beat reporter that I follow for the Cavs said it's not just him, but nobody else has been out. So I have a feeling that they're not 100% health-wise. So, and I'm telling you, I have been sick for 6 weeks at least. It just won't go away. And this weather is not helping. And if they have anything like what I have, I could not imagine playing basketball because every morning I am so congested. So I don't know exactly what the bug is that they have that's going through the locker room because they really haven't gone into any specifics. But if it's respiratory at all, that's got to be slowing them down. So I think that might be part of it. And they've just been so hot. They're due for a cool down.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to play at that level they've been playing at all year. And plateauing over, not plateauing necessarily, but, just having maybe a cooling off period, if you will. I mean,
right.
I think I mentioned on your show before too, I've been a part of Pacers teams that put up 60+ win seasons. and they're just on fire. And then unfortunately they just hit that point where have already played their best basketball. I don't think that's the case with Cleveland at this point, and then just kind of crashed and burned later. And just, I think, due to other teams kind of figuring them out. And I kind of felt a little bit on Sunday, especially, and I can't believe I'm even saying this out loud because Pacers and defense don't make sense at all. But in the past 3 weeks, I was seeing a stat. They're like third in the league defensively in the past 3 weeks. So I was kind of watching some of those matchups, and I felt like, to me, they were giving the Cavs like people like Mobley and them just a few fits. A few different looks that maybe were not expecting, perhaps, or just hadn't seen. But obviously, come Tuesday, Cleveland kind of righted that ship.
Yes.
Yeah, and I felt that, even though that was a good game on Tuesday.
It was.
And for me, the Pacers really could. They were close most of the game, and just could. But I guess they get within a couple baskets, and then Cleveland would get 3 baskets, and then Pacers would get another couple. Cleveland would get another 3, and then just kind of hung there, and then eventually at the end, kind of Cleveland put it away. But I'm not gonna lie to you. I've said, last time you and I were talking, I felt that it feels like the Pacers now they're getting healthier. In fact, they got one of their starters back last night in Detroit. He only played a few minutes, but it's been his first game since November. So I was expecting that, but it still feels like they're playing a little bit better basketball and turning a corner. And even though I didn't have that, I was like you, I thought they'd be a home and home and each team would take home court. I kind of saw that. I was like, man, I wouldn't mind seeing these two teams in a playoff series.
Right? Yeah. I think both games were very good and very competitive. I was actually surprised at the Pacers defense against us. It was brought up a couple of times during the broadcast too. They were like, the Pacers aren't really known for their defense, but they're bringing it tonight. So, but I also think it's good for the Cavs. They're seeing different things, and it's giving them a chance to grow more. Like we talked about on my show, Atlanta really gave them fits. They could not figure out how to shut Atlanta down. So I think some teams are looking at that too to see what Atlanta did, because 2 games in a row, the Cavs lost. The only time all season they've lost 2 in a row, and they could not get ahead of Atlanta at all. So I think I've been noticing with a couple of the games that have been closer, because a lot of the Cavs games have been blowouts, but a lot of the ones that have been closer, the teams are playing more similar to how Atlanta played us.
Yeah, and then it'll just be, that's commonplace. I think it'll just be up to Cleveland and the coaching staff to kind of make tweaks here and there, and I'm sure they will. Yeah, there's too much talent on the squad, but so real quick before we jump into football, both our teams played last night. Pacers got a win over 110 and 100 over Detroit. Cavs were not so lucky with Oklahoma City, but I don't know if you can be mad about that because you split those.
Yes.
Against the best team in the West, and some would argue maybe the best team in the NBA right now. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying some would argue. So real quick, I couldn't watch it last night. Unfortunately, I didn't. I was obviously watching the Pacers. But what was your takeaway from last night?
They got bested.
Oklahoma City's good.
They just their shots weren't going at all. They were hitting the rim every time and not going in. They had a couple that did the little swirl around the rim and then pop back out.
Yeah.
It was just one of those nights where and we've seen it a couple of times before, but usually it only lasts 2 to 5 minutes and then they get it back together. But last night it was the whole game, and they couldn't recover. Darius Garland was the only one that had any kind of points. He had 20. I think the next closest was 9. So it was just not a good game. Nobody was playing well. And I think the only reason Darius Garland was playing well is because he's so shifty. He could just squeak in between them and get his little shots off. But nobody else could hit anything to save their lives. Max Struess came in and hit a couple of threes and got them going a couple of times, but they just couldn't overcome the deficit. And every time they started to get close, something else would go wrong. So it's just one of those nights where nothing was
Yeah.
going their way.
Well, I mean, it is a potential finals preview. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see how this shakes out. No doubt about it. I think, you know, I said we'll see. So real quick, Pacers win 111-100 last night. They got the 76ers this weekend, which good Lord, they should win that. And then we get Pacers get to go to Paris
Oh,
for 2 games.
nice.
And this cracks me up because it's San Antonio, so it's a homecoming for Wemby, and they're like, oh well, the Pacers will be a home team one of the games. I'm like, what are you kidding me? Come on, just give us this. We're the road team. Forget it. I mean, it's Wemby's home country. What do we do? What are we talking about here? So we'll see how that shakes out. But no, the Pacers. I mean, the Pistons are better than we thought this year.
Yeah.
Pacers came back with 5 in double figures last night, and Miles Turner was absolutely insane from 3-point range last night. Hit 8 of 11.
Yeah, he did that against us too.
Yeah, he gets on. He gets rolling. He rolls. I mean,
Yeah.
you can say that about a lot of players, obviously, but Miles is definitely that guy. He'll go ice cold another game. So
Yeah.
anyway, so all right. Well, enough of that. Let's get to the big thing here. We got Irish and the Buckeyes
Yes.
Monday, and I know you and I have talked about this. I've talked to several others about this. I thought when the brackets came out, I saw this matchup as a high probability, and here we are. I think that these two teams are playing. They play the best football of the teams that were in the playoff. To be quite honest with you, so
Yeah.
now that we're a little bit closer, obviously you and I have talked about it. How you feeling? And from an Ohio State perspective, what are you hoping to see in the first quarter or so, besides a repeat of the Oregon game?
I'd like to see them come out and start fast. Throughout the season, they had a few slow starts. We haven't really seen that in the playoffs, and I'd like them to keep that going. Because they're playing real competition now. Those games that they had the slow starts in the regular season were, Marshall, Akron. You could come back from that, not a big deal, but you fall behind in the college football championship. It's not as easy to recover.
No, and I don't think you definitely, when you're playing a defense like Notre Dame, I don't even as high powered as the Ohio State offense is, and they are. That's just it's something you don't want to do. What from a looking at it from an Ohio State perspective, what, if any, I mean, you can be candid, matchups on either side of the ball might worry you a little bit?
The defensive line against the offensive line. Ohio State's offensive line is pretty beat up. They have a backup center who is not snapping well at all. We talked about this a little bit on my show too.
Yeah.
It's just, it scares me every time I see Will Howard having to bend down to catch the ball on the snap, that there's going to be a fumble or somebody's going to squeak through there too fast and he's not going to be able to recover. So that's a big one. And then how the secondary handles our receivers. Because we do have 3 really good ones.
You do.
And a pretty solid tight end.
Well, and to me, it's one of these games, and I'll give from a Notre Dame's perspective here too. I think it's a game you look on paper and you go, all right, Ohio State's top to bottom, probably the most, they're the more talented team. They've got weapons everywhere. The receiving core is ridiculous. Although I do like Notre Dame's running backs. I would take those 2 running backs probably over anybody. I just would. And that's no shade to the Ohio State running back, because they're also really freaking good. So I do agree with you, though. I do like the I'm a big fan of Knowles. You're DC, and I'm also a big fan of Al Golden, Notre Dame's DC. So I'm really interested to see the schemes that they pull off here.
Yeah.
Notre Dame is so strong in running the game, in the running game. Riley Leonard will run too, obviously. So essentially, you've got a three-headed monster at running back. So can Riley make those plays? Against that very, very, very good Ohio State defense. You're going to have to score some points. You're going to have to find some ways to get points on the board.
Yes.
I would expect Notre Dame to do something similar to what Texas did, and just kind of, do not let Jeremiah Smith beat you.
Right.
I would make the other receivers do it, and
Yeah.
and they're good and they can do it and they're very, very capable of doing it. There's no way I would be shocked if there were a huge plays to start early. I think Ohio State will definitely be able to move the ball between the 20s. I mean, they're too good. How will they do in the red zone against the Notre Dame defense? We'll see. Notre Dame can get those to threes. Notre Dame's got a shot. I think if the Ohio State team that played against Texas shows up, I think Notre Dame's got a real shot.
Right.
If it's the team that showed up against Oregon, this game might be over in 15 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's the question mark about Ohio State. Which team's going to show up? So I was pleasantly surprised in the Oregon game, as I think you saw me in the group chat that I wanted them to either get their butts kicked or kick butt, no in between. And they pulled it off in some crazy fashion there. I did not expect that type of outcome. I thought it was going to be a close game, especially if Ohio State were to pull it off. I mean, because they played in the regular season, and Ohio State lost by 1 because of poor time management.
Yep.
And I was shocked when they just came out and scored like crazy on Oregon. It's not like they'd never played each other before.
Right.
Oregon was wholly unprepared for that game.
Oh yeah, they looked like they had no business being there.
No, they did not look like the team that made it to that point at all.
No.
So I would very much like to see that Ohio State team come out. I have a feeling it's going to be somewhere in between the one that played Oregon and the one that played Texas. So we'll see, but I would like to see Will Howard get a little more creative, or the offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, whoever, get a little more creative if Notre Dame does take Jeremiah Smith out of the equation, because it seemed to stump them against Texas. They couldn't figure out what to do until Travion Henderson finally got going. But I would like to see them get Igbuka and Tate more involved and try and figure that out. And even G. Scott, whoever, like find a way to get Jeremiah Smith open. You got to figure out how to work around those kinds of things if you're going to be successful. So I would like to see them be a little more productive if Jeremiah Smith is taken out, because they've focused on him so much and they've counted on him so much throughout the season. They've got to figure out what to do when he's taken out, because it's not going to get better over the next 2 years. Everybody's going to be focused on how to shut down Jeremiah Smith.
Right. I think at the end of the day, what I'm looking forward to most is just how the chess match between Knowles and Golden, with these defensive schemes, who can handle the other. And I think you could argue that Knowles has a little bit of an easier task, maybe because the Notre Dame passing game isn't, like in Ohio State, but Notre Dame's, does kind of feel like a little bit of a magical run for them right now. So you just don't know what they're going to pull out of their hat there. So last thing since we're at the hour mark here, give your score prediction.
Oh, shoot.
Don't worry. We rarely ever get these right.
Man, I don't know. I think it could be either really high scoring or really low. So I'm going to go in the middle and say 28-17 Ohio State.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna stick. I've said this on a few other shows this week too. I'm gonna just stick with my prediction here. I got it. It would be sacrilege if I picked Ohio State, being an Indiana guy. So I can't do it. But I'm gonna say 27-24 Notre Dame on a game-winning field goal.
Nice.
But
That would be a great championship game.
I mean, yeah, I could see this game. Honestly, I could see this thing going several different ways. I don't.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that would really shock me, I mean, and it would shock the world, quite frankly, is if Notre Dame won 38-0 or something like that.
Right.
I mean, that would be the only complete shock. I think anything else, I could see anything else happening. I think so.
Yeah.
We will see come Monday night.
Yes.
So real quick, Jen, where can we find you, and tell us about the other projects you got going?
I am on X at a Show of the Land IE, and I am the host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio. And my show generally goes live on Saturday evenings, sometimes Sunday mornings, depending on how the games play out, because I don't like to do my show during a game that I'm talking about.
Fair. Very fair. Well, all right. Well, Jen, thank you so much for making the time tonight. I greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the games this weekend.
Yes, you too.
I know I'm sure we'll be talking in the group chat quite a bit come Monday.
Yes.
So, all right, we'll let you get to your weekend. Have a great weekend, Jen. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. You too.
See ya. All right, that is going to do it for us here at Indy Sports Day. Just want to thank you all so much again for tuning in. Hope you can check out the replay. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the games, and we'll see you right back here next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.